This is the moment you realize the smartest person in the room isn't always the one standing at the front, wearing the silk tie, basking in decades of accolades. Sometimes, it's the quiet kid in the back with a duct-taped backpack and a warehouse shift that starts at midnight, who just walked in late and made the whole world stop to listen. You know what I mean? Yeah, that happened. Let me back up a sec, because how we got here isn't just a math story. It's about who gets to be called a genius in America and who gets to decide 0.3 hours before Professor Steinberg found himself staring at a whiteboard he couldn't solve. Riverside University was humming with tension, the kind you can almost taste, where every kid in the auditorium is calculating not just equations but futures, hoping a right answer might launch them straight from student loans to MIT or Stanford, maybe even a life nobody in their family ever had. This was the annual Math Open Challenge, the one that fills out scholarships and bank accounts before kids even know what to do with them. The judges' panel looked like the Mount Rushmore of mathematics. Steinberg front and center, 52, Fields Medal nominee, a name that filled textbooks, a voice that silenced rooms. And across the seats, 200 of California's best and brightest, laptops flashing, calculators worth more than some people's cars, 15,000 people watching online, climbing by the minute. Then Damon Williams walked in, late, wearing a faded hoodie, carrying a backpack held together with more hope than cash, and instantly you could feel the air change. Security almost turned him away, like there'd been a clerical error. But Damon had the receipts, literally, an acceptance email from acing the qualifying exam on his phone between unloading trucks at the warehouse. He found a seat in the back, and, honestly, if you'd blinked you would have missed the way every eye followed him, the way Steinberg's gaze narrowed, sizing up the charity case with his discount calculator and thrift store sneakers. Whispered jokes, phones raised. Everyone sure this was about to be a lesson in humiliation, but Damon just nodded. I think I'm exactly where I need to be. That's the thing about kids who've spent their lives being underestimated. They know how to ignore the noise. The warm-up problems went out, and while everyone else attacked the page with advanced graphing calculators, Damon stared for half a minute, then started writing. No scratch work, no calculator, just solutions that looked, to the kid from Berkeley sitting 2 rows up, almost like magic. Where she'd take 5 steps, he took 2. Where her professors taught brute force, he found the elegant path, lines and curves appearing as if they'd been waiting for someone to notice them all along. Is he even supposed to be here? Someone muttered. Check his credentials. But Steinberg had seen this before. Community colleges sending kids into the lion's den, unaware they were lambs for slaughter. He smirked and called out across the hall. Are you lost, son? Community college info sessions in the next building. Laughter rolled through the crowd. Chat comments exploded. Someone's about to get destroyed. Damon didn't flinch. Instead, when the elimination round started, Steinberg made sure the first volunteer was the kid in the hoodie, the one nobody believed belonged. Let's see what our visiting student can handle, he said, and the crowd leaned in, ready for the blood sport. Damon stood, heart pounding so loud he was sure everyone could hear, but this wasn't just about him. He was carrying every outsider who ever got told they didn't belong. Steinberg scrawled a deceptively simple-looking calculus problem, but the trap was hidden in the fine print. Techniques Damon's classes never covered, concepts that sent top students home in tears. 10 minutes. No pressure. Phones everywhere. Chat racing. Hashtag Math Showdown starting to trend. Damon looked at the board, silent, unmoving, and the room began to snicker. But Maya, the Berkeley kid, noticed something. His eyes weren't scared. They were searching, recognizing. After half a minute, Damon began, not with formulas, but with a geometric diagram, drawing lines that wove the whole problem into one smooth, simple truth. Steinberg interrupted, annoyed. That's not the standard approach. Damon shrugged. Sometimes the standard approach isn't the most elegant, sir. He kept going, explaining every step. He didn't just solve the problem. He showed how everyone had been missing the shortcut, using 12 steps where 4 would do. The auditorium fell silent. And then, twist number 1. Damon paused, scanned the equation again, and said, Professor, I think there's an error in the problem statement. Gasps. You could feel it. Nobody breathes. Phones freeze. Even Steinberg's pen hovers in the air. Damon points, shows a coefficient that shouldn't be there. Steinberg checks his notes. Face falling, crowd murmuring. Then applause from the back starts to build. Damon was right. But Steinberg's ego wasn't built to lose. He doubled down. Maybe you'd like to try graduate-level qualifier material. The auditorium went electric. Damon, no hesitation. What did you have in mind, Professor? 3 problems. Increasing difficulty. Explain as you go. Stakes went through the roof. This wasn't just about math anymore. It was about whether a warehouse kid could take on the system and win. And he did. Damon's methods were not just right, they were new. Solutions that made professors sit up, scribble notes, rethink what they thought they knew. A hush swept the crowd, except the live stream, which now had 75,000 people watching, universities worldwide forwarding the link. When Steinberg brought in another judge, Professor Hoffman, infamous for her skepticism, she grilled Damon on academic language, citation, context. This wasn't about ability anymore. It was about club rules. Could he speak the language, recite the dogma? The crowd turned, doubt crept in, and for a moment, you could see the weight of outsider status crush even someone as brilliant as Damon. But outside, social media was having a different conversation. PhD students posted, "I couldn't answer those vocabulary questions either." Hashtags trended. Hashtag academic gatekeeping. Hashtag community college genius. Support flooded in from people who knew what it felt like to be excluded not for lack of brains, but lack of pedigree. Back in the room, Steinberg wasn't finished. He shifted to accusation, questioned Damon's integrity, demanded his notes, implied that nobody learns this on their own. Security was called. The humiliation was public and raw. Damon, for a moment, looked every bit the defeated kid they wanted him to be. But Dr. Vasquez, herself a survivor of bias, stepped in, voice steady. "We'll give Mr. Williams one final challenge. The hardest pure math problem we can create. If he solves it, you'll apologize in front of everyone." Steinberg, cornered, put up the final boss, a monstrous equation from his own unpublished research, the kind that stumped MIT faculty for months. The crowd held its breath. Damon, tears still in his eyes from the accusation, stepped up, saw the equation not as an enemy, but as a friend, saw through its tricks, and, with growing confidence, unraveled the entire problem, not just solving it, but showing a new way forward. He exposed an assumption error nobody had noticed, flipped the whole solution on its head, and in front of an audience of 150,000, made a 3-year research program look like a classroom exercise. When he finished, the room didn't explode. It detonated. Standing ovation, chat going wild, Maya Carter crying as she tweeted, "Genius defeats prejudice in real time." Steinberg, face ashen, stood and finally apologized. But Damon, steady, kind, offered a handshake. "Maybe we can learn from each other." Phones captured the moment, a new symbol for what's possible when humility meets grace. But the story didn't stop at an apology. National Science Foundation called. MIT, Stanford, Caltech offered direct PhD fellowships, no undergrad required. Damon's methods were rushed to publication, his notebook already going viral. Within months, funding for community colleges shot up, and kids everywhere started asking, if a warehouse worker can rewrite the rules, maybe there's room at the table for all of US.so now. Somewhere out there, another Damon is watching, wondering if they belong. I'd say, don't wait for permission. The world needs your weird, your wild, your genius, no matter what tie the professor is wearing. What impossible problem would you solve if you weren't afraid to try? Comment your thoughts below. Let's debate what's fair, what's genius, and who gets to decide. Because brilliance doesn't need permission. It just needs a chance.